Welcome, YouTubers, to another episode in my Grammar Hero series. In this video, there will be 16 very hard practice test questions that should closely mirror what you should expect to see in the arithmetic reasoning, the math knowledge, the electronics information, and the mechanical comprehension subtest of both the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, that is the ASVAB, as well as the PiCAT. As a quick reminder, you're not permitted to use a calculator or a reference sheet on either of these tests. And in order to get the most from this video, you'll want to pause the video after I read a practice test question, attempt to solve it on your own, and then resume playing the video to check your solution. One thing I quickly want to mention is that the ASVAB and PiCAT are a computer adaptive test. In other words, these questions, as you're going to see in just a minute, are going to take 2 to 4 minutes for you to solve. And if you start seeing questions like this, that means you're doing extremely well on the test, and you should see these questions toward the end of each of these subtests. Thankfully enough, you're also going to notice that nothing in this video goes beyond freshman level high school math. In fact, most of it is middle school math. So if you graduated from middle school, you should be able to solve these questions pretty easily with a little practice. Finally, I want to say this: the vast majority of you will pass the ASVAB on your first try as long as you spend a week or two diligently studying for it. You don't need a tutor to review middle school math with you. And thankfully enough, my channel already has free review videos for all the concepts in this video, including about 1,000 free practice test questions for you to really master these concepts. So with all that being said, let's get started with these practice test questions. ASVAB PiCAT Arithmetic Reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says, tennis court is 78 feet long, divided into two halves by a net. For singles play, the court is 27 feet wide. For doubles play, an additional 4.5 feet are allowed to be used along each of the two longer sides. How much larger is the area of the doubles court than the singles court? So we're talking about a tennis court. Both of those are going to be rectangles, so their areas are going to be length times width. And both courts, what's more, have a length of 78. So let's go ahead and write that in for both of these areas. What is the width of the singles court? Well, according to the problem, it's 27 feet. What is the width of the doubles court? Well, according to the problem, you get an extra 4.5 feet here and an extra 4.5 feet here. 4.5 and 4.5 is 9. 9 plus 27 gets you to 36 as your width for that. Now you have to do some tedious math. We're going to multiply these out, and then we're going to subtract a bigger area from the smaller area. And I'm going to do that right here so I don't make any mistakes here. 7 times 8 is 56, carry a 5. 7 times 7 is 49, plus 5 is 54. Add a 0 placeholder. 2 times 8 is 16, carry a 1. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Let's add these up. This is going to be 6, 10, so bring down a 0, carry a 1. 10, 11, carry a 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So the area of the smaller court is 2,106 square feet. Let's do this math over here. We have 78 times 36. 8 times 6 is going to be 48, carry a 4. 7 times 6, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. Add a 0 placeholder. 8 times 3 is 24, carry a 2. 7 times 3 is 21, 22, 23. Let's add this up now. 8, again, this is 10, so carry a 1, 7, 8, and then 2. So the area of the doubles court is 2,808. To find the difference, we just subtract them, and I'm going to do 2,808 minus 2,106. Thankfully enough, this is the easiest part of the problem. 8 minus 6 is 2, 0 minus 0 is 0. 8 minus 1 is 7, 2 minus 2 is 0. So the difference is C, 702 square feet. Very tedious problem. It's arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says a wooden box is 1 foot high, 3 feet wide, and 5 feet long. Bob is going to use it for a tabletop and plans to paint the four sides and top. How many square feet will be painted? So we're talking about finding the surface area of this box, excluding the bottom of it. So we're going to have to calculate surface area. And the first thing I like to do whenever I have to calculate surface area is quickly write down length, width, and height because this helps me write the formula without really having to memorize anything. Again, according to the problem, its height is 1 foot, its width is 3 feet, and its height is 5 feet. How do we find the surface area of a rectangular prism or a box? Well, it looks like this: 2 times something in parentheses plus 2 times something in parentheses plus 2 times something in parentheses. Well, what do we put in the parentheses? We just have to make sure to multiply length, width, and height all together. So in this one, I could put length times width. In this one, I could put length times height. And in this one, I could put width times height. Now, that said, we are not painting the bottom of this box, right? So we have to exclude that from part of this formula. Again, this 2 represents left and right, uh, front and back, and top and bottom. So we have to figure out which part of this formula we're going to modify to get rid of the bottom. Well, we can see the bottom has a length and a width. And so we only need length and width for the top of the box, not the bottom. So this is our new modified formula: 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. Now let's just plug values in and work this out. This becomes very easy now. Length and width is 5 times 3 plus 2. Length and height is going to be 5 times 1. And width and height is 3 times 1. This becomes 15 plus 5 times 1 is 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 1 is 3 times 2 is 6. This is 25 plus 6, which is 31. So he's going to be painting 31 square feet. This arithmetic reasoning practice test question says a photograph was reduced to a width of 15.6 centimeters using a scale factor of 3 to 2. What was the width of the original photograph? So we're going to use a proportion to solve this one. We're going to put this scale factor of 3 to 2 on the left-hand side of our proportion. And how are we going to fill in the right-hand side? Well, this 15.6 centimeters corresponds to the smaller value. So I'm going to put that down here with this smaller value of 2. And we don't know its original width, so we'll call that x. How do you solve proportions? You do so via cross multiplication. 2 times x is 2x equals 3 times 15.6. Let's go ahead and do this math off to the side. We have 15.6 times 3. We're going to move this decimal one place to the right to make this 156 times 3, albeit with one decimal to move back into our answer. 6 times 3 is 18, carry a 1. 15, 16, carry a 1, 3, 4. So move our one decimal back in. This says 2x equals 46.8. Again, we just want x, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. This crosses out. This says x equals 46.8 divided by 2. And you can do this one mentally. This one's very easy to do. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Put our decimal there. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So its original width is D, 23.4 centimeters. You could also do the long division, but you're going to get the same result. 2 goes into 4 2 times, 2 goes into 6 3 times. Bring our decimal up. 2 times 4 is 8. So again, this would give you no remainder. So this one is D. ASVAB PiCAT Arithmetic Reasoning Practice Test question says John purchased a shirt for $22.05. If this includes a 5% sales tax, what was the actual price of this shirt? So let's let X equal the actual price of this shirt. We know this is going to be 22.05. That is the total cost that includes the sales tax is equal to, again, we have a 5% sales tax. So this is going to be 1.05 times X, the actual price. So to get X by itself, we're going to divide both sides of this equation by 1.05. In doing so, this crosses out, leaving us with X on this side. Now we got to do some long division here. This reads 22.05 divided by 1.05. You can't do long division where there's a decimal outside the division bracket. So I have to move this decimal one, two times to the right, and I have to move this decimal corresponding number of times, one, two times to the right. So this becomes 2205 with no decimal divided by 105 with no decimal. So let's go ahead and work this out. How many times does 105 go into 2? It doesn't. How many times does 105 go into 22? It doesn't. How many times does 105 go into 220 without going over? That's going to be 2 times. 105 times 2 is going to be 210. Let's subtract this out. 220 minus 210 is 10. And now we drop down this 5. How many times does 105 go into 105 without going over? That's 1 time. 105 times 1 is 105. So we have no remainder here. So the correct answer to this one, the actual price of the shirt without sales tax included, is D, $21. This arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says Cheryl has a small rectangular garden that has a 24-foot perimeter. The width of the garden is exactly one half of its length. What is the area of Cheryl's garden in square feet? So we know its perimeter is 24 feet, and we want to find its area. How do you find area? Area is simply length times width for a rectangle. And the question is, given this information, how are we going to calculate its area? Well, we're told right here that its width is exactly half of its length. So here's a rectangle. I'm going to call its length L. And if its width is half of its length, we could call its width half L. Now, how do you find the perimeter of any regular polygon, including a rectangle? You simply add up all of its sides. So if we start here and go this way, that's going to be half of L plus half of L plus L. And we know what's more, its perimeter is 24. So this is 24 equals L and L is 2L, half an L and half an L is 1L. So in total, this is 3L. Divide both sides by 3 now to get L by itself. 24 divided by 3 is 8. So we know its length is 8. Its width is half of L. Half of 8 is 4. Let's find its area now. Again, we know L is 8 and width is 4. 8 times 4 is 32. Its area is C, 32 square feet. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says, if carpet cleaning costs 55 cents per square yard, how much will it cost to clean a carpet that is 16 feet by 18 feet? So right away, you should notice that there is a discrepancy. We're given dimensions of our carpet that are in terms of feet, notably 16 feet by 18 feet, and we're given the cost of cleaning the carpet in terms of yards, notably 55 cents per square yard. So in other words, we're going to have to make a conversion to solve this one specifically. We're going to have to convert these feet to be in terms of yards. And for that, you have to know that there are 3 feet in every 1 yard. So let's start by converting 18 feet to be in terms of yards. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So 18 feet is the same thing as 6 yards. Let's do the same thing for 16 feet. We're going to do 16 divided by 3. And at this point, I do not want to convert this. So I'm going to leave this as 16 over 3 yards, and you're going to see why in just a minute. Now, the cost to clean this carpet is in terms of square yards. So the next thing we have to do is find the area of this carpet. This carpet is a rectangle, so its area is going to be length times width. And we're going to be using the yards now. We know it's 6 yards long by 16 over 3 yards wide. And now we're multiplying a whole number by a fraction. We're going to make 6 into a fraction by placing it over 1. And when you multiply two fractions, you just multiply straight across. That said, you always want to cross reduce to make the math as easy as possible. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 6 two times. This is 2 over 1, which is just 2, times 16 over 1, which is just 16. 2 times 16 is 32. So the area of our carpet is 32 square yards. All right, so now that we know its area, we can calculate the cost. It's going to be 32 square yards times the 55 cents per square yard to clean it. We want to clear this decimal in 0.55 by shifting it 2 times to the right. This becomes 32 times 55, albeit with 2 decimals to move back into our answer at the end. So let's go ahead and do this. 2 times 5 is 10, carry a 1. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Before we start math with this 5 here, we have to add a 0 placeholder. 2 times 5 is 10, carry a 1. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Let's add this up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 0 is 6. 1 plus 6 is 7. 1 plus nothing is 1. Bringing back our 2 decimals, and that gets us there. So you can see that it's going to cost us This arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says, what is the approximate surface area of a box that is 8 inches wide, 12 inches tall, and 9 inches long? So let's write down these three things. We have a box that is 8 inches wide, so its width is W, 12 inches tall, so its height is 12, and 9 inches long, so its length is 9. Now, the formula to find surface area is not one that you have to memorize. Just remember this. The surface area of a rectangular prism, which is a box, looks like this. 2 times, and we put something in parentheses, plus 2 times, we put something in parentheses, plus 2 times, and again, we're going to put something in parentheses. Well, what do we put in these three sets of parentheses? All we have to do is multiply all three of these things together. So in this one, I could do width times height. In this one, I could do width times length. And in this one, I could do height times length. As long as you know that, you don't really have to memorize this formula. That said, let's go ahead and plug these values in. Width and height is 8 times 12, plus width and length is going to be 8 times 9, plus height and length is 12 times 9. All right, let's work this out. Now, if you don't remember what 12 times 8 is, you can always do it off the side. Again, you have 12 times 8. That's 16, carry a 1, 8, 9. So this is 2 times 96 plus 8 times 9. You can use your hand for that one. You know that's going to be 2 times 72 plus 2. 12 times 9, if you don't remember that one, do it off to the side. We have 12 times 8 over there. You could add 12 to that, or you could do it this way. 2 times 9 is 18, carry a 1. 1 times 9 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So this is 2 times 108. All right, so now we got to work out 2 times 96, 2 times 72, and 2 times 108. I'm going to do that down here. 96 times 2. Again, 6 times 2 is going to be 12, carry a 1. 2 times 9 is 18, 19. So this is 192. Plus, let's do 72 times 2 right here. 2 times 2 is 4. 7 times 2 is 14. So that's 144. And then 2 times 108, 108 times 2. That's 16, carry a 1. That's 0 plus 1 is 1. And then 2 times 1 is 2. Let's add all this up now. I'm going to do it off to the side so as not to make any mistakes here. We have 192, 144, and 216. 6 and 4 is 10, plus 2 is 12, carry a 1. 4 and 1 is 5. 9 and 1 is 10. 10 and 5 is 15. Carry a 1. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so its surface area, as you can see, is 552 square inches. Very tedious problem, but nothing too hard. This ASVAB PiCAT Math Knowledge Practice Test question says, what is 8b minus ab plus 7a subtracted from 3a minus 9ab plus b? So a lot of people get confused as to how to start this one. What if this one said, what is 4 subtracted from 6? What is 4 subtracted from 6? Most of you would say that is going to be 6 minus 4. Well, we're going to do the same thing here. But before we get started, I'm going to rearrange this top polynomial to match this bottom polynomial. That is to say, I'm going to move 7a over here, and then minus ab plus 8b. All right, so again, it says, what is 8b minus ab plus 7a subtracted from 3a minus 9ab plus b. Well, that looks like this: 3a minus 9ab plus b. And from that, we're subtracting this first polynomial, and I'm going to use this rewritten polynomial: minus 7a minus ab plus 8b. All right, now in order to proceed, I have to take this negative sign and distribute it here, here, and finally here. So this becomes 3a minus 9ab plus b. Negative times positive 7a becomes negative 7a. Negative times a negative ab becomes plus ab. Again, a negative times a negative is a positive. Negative times a positive 8b becomes negative 8b. Now we have to go through this big polynomial here and combine our like terms. Again, like terms have the same letter variables raised to the same power. So 3a and negative 7a are like terms. 3a minus 7a is going to be negative 4a. Cross those out. And now we know our answer starts with negative 4a. So cross a and c out. And then we have negative 9ab plus ab. Negative 9ab plus ab is negative 8ab. Let's go ahead and cross those out now. And then we have positive b and negative 8b. Negative 8b plus b is negative 7b. So our answer is going to be b, negative 4a minus 8ab minus 7b. This mechanical comprehension practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says this: what is the amount of force needed to keep the barrel from moving? If we look at our diagram, you can see that we have a 150-pound barrel on an inclined plane that is 9 feet long and goes up 3 feet vertically. Now, for this subtest of the ASVAB, you really don't need to know any formulas. All these questions can be solved using nothing more than common sense. That said, the formula does make sense, so let's take a quick look at it. The force that we need to keep this barrel from moving is going to be equal to the weight of the barrel times sine theta. That is the angle of incline right here. All right, so what is the weight of the barrel? According to the diagram, it's 150 pounds. What is sine theta? Well, let's think about that for a second. And you do have to know some basic trig to answer this one. Again, I remember sine, cosine, and tangent using the mnemonic device SOHCAHTOA. Again, sine, so. Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. What is the opposite of theta here? It's 3 feet. What is the hypotenuse of this right triangle? It's 9 feet. So sine is 3 over 9, which we know reduces to 1/3. So this becomes 150 times 1/3. Write 150 as a fraction by placing it over 1. Multiply these two fractions now. This becomes 150 times 1, which is 150 over 1 times 3. 150 divided by 3 is simply 50. So this one is going to be A. It's going to take 50 pounds of force to keep this barrel from sliding down this inclined plane. This ASVAB PiCAT Electronics Information Practice Test question says if R1 equals 25 ohms and R2 equals 100 ohms, what is the total resistance in the circuit? So first of all, you have to recognize that we're dealing with a parallel circuit here. Therefore, we're going to use this formula for Ohm's law to calculate total resistance. And it's very simple. It's 1 over 1 over R1, which we know according to the problem is 25 ohms, plus 1 over R2, which according to the problem is 100 ohms. In order to add these two fractions here, they have to have the same denominator. So I'm going to multiply 25 by 4. I'm going to have to do that to its numerator such that I get this: 1 over, what is 4 times 1? That's 4 over 4 times 25 is 100 plus 1 over 100. Now, when you add fractions, you keep your denominator the same. So this is 1 over, uh, again, we're going to keep our denominator the same. 4 plus 1 is 5. So we have 1 divided by 5 over 100. When we divide something by a fraction, we have to follow the algorithm keep, change, flip. That is to say, we keep this 1 the same, so this is equal to 1. We're going to change from division here to multiplication, and then we're going to flip this bottom fraction. So instead of being 5 over 100, it's going to be 100 over 5. Now let's work this out. What is 100 divided by 5? That is 20. So this becomes 1 times 20, which is just 20. So the total resistance in this parallel circuit is going to be B 20 ohms. This math knowledge practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says which expression represents the volume of a cylinder whose height is equivalent to the length of the radius. So what's a cylinder look like? It has a circular top and bottom that are connected via a tube. How do you find its volume? Well, you really don't have to memorize anything as long as you know how to find the area of a circle. Again, this is a circular face. Its area is pi r squared. And then all we do is multiply that by the height of the cylinder, which is h. All right, so that's how you derive the formula. In this case, we're told that its height is equal to its radius. So in place of h here, we can actually plug in r. This becomes pi r squared times r. Now, using the laws of exponents, notably the product law, we can actually do r squared times r. Again, the product law says a to the m times a to the n is equal to a to the m plus n. That is, you add their exponents. So r squared times r, again, there is no power here, so we assume it's 1, is going to be equal to r to the 2 plus 1, which is r to the third. So this is pi times r to the third, which, as you can see, is answer choice B. Again, you would never square pi for any reason, so those are obviously wrong. All right, so this one is B. Practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says a photocopy machine can copy 24 pages per minute. How long will it take the machine to make 36 copies of a 324-page document? So let's calculate how many pages we have to copy. Again, the document is 324 pages, and we're making 36 copies of that. So we're going to do 324 times 36. 4 times 6 is 24, carry a 2. 6 times 2 is 12, 13, 14, carry a 1. 3 times 6, 18, 19. Add a 0 placeholder before we start multiplication with this. 3 times 4 is 12. Carry a 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 3 times 3 is 9. Let's add all this up. This is going to be 4, 6, 16, carry a 1, 11. So we're going to be copying 11,664 pages. And again, this machine copies at a rate of 24 pages per minute. So by doing 11,664 divided by 24, we'll know how many minutes it's going to take to make these photocopies. How many times does 24 go into 116 without going over? It's going to be 4 times. Again, think of 24 like 25. 25 times 4 would be 100. 25 times 5 would be 125, which would be too big. I'm going to do this off to the side so as not to make any mistakes here. 4 times 4 is 16, carry a 1. 2 times 4 is 8. This is 9. 6 minus 6 is 0. 9. 11 minus 9 is 9, 10, 11, 20. Drop down this 6. How many times does 24 go into 206 without going over? Well, again, think of it like 25. 25 times 8 would be 200, so this has to be 8 times. And I'm going to do 24 times 8 off to the side so I don't make any mistakes. 4 times 8 is 32, carry a 3. 2 times 8, 16, 17, 18, 19. So this is 192. Let's do this subtraction here. 6 minus 2 is 4. 20 minus 19 is 1, and we got to drop down this 4. How many times does 12 go into 144? That's 12 times. Since 24 is twice as big as 12, I know 24 goes into 144 6 times. 24 times 6 is 144 with no remainder. So it's going to take 486 minutes to make these photocopies. That said, we have to convert this to be in terms of hours and minutes. Again, there are 60 minutes in every hour. So we're going to take this and divide it by 60. How many times does 60 go into 486 without going over? Well, think of 60 like 6. 6 times 8 would be 48. So 60 times 8 is going to be 480. 46 minus 480 is 6. And just by looking at the answer choices, we know it's going to take 8 hours at least. Only one of them has 8 hours as an answer choice. And here's where we get our 6 minutes. All right, so that is that one. This ASVAB PiCAT Arithmetic Reasoning practice test question says two tanks are partially filled with 96 gallons of water each as shown. Tank A is 4/5 full and tank B is 2/3 full. What is the maximum amount of water that can be held in both tanks together? So we're going to translate these statements into equations that we can then solve. Let's start with tank A. There are 96 gallons of water in tank A, and that is equal to 4/5 of tank A's capacity. So 96 equals 4/5 A. We're going to solve that for A to get its maximum capacity. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for B. Again, there are 96 gallons of water in tank B, and that's equal to 2/3 of tank B's total capacity. By solving this for B, we'll know its total capacity, and then we'll add these two values together. How am I going to solve for A? I'm going to clear 4/5 by multiplying both sides of this equation by its reciprocal, notably by 5/4. This crosses out, leaving you with just A over here. Let's write 96 as a fraction by placing it over 1. And before we do this math, let's try to cross reduce. 4 goes into 4 one time. How many times does 4 go into 96? We'll do 96 divided by 4 off to the side. 4 goes into 9 two times without going over. 4 times 2 is 8. 9 minus 8 is 1. Drop down this 6. 4 times 4 is exactly 16. So this is 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 96 24 times. This is 5 over 1, which is just 5, times 24 over 1, which is just 24. So A is equal to 5 times 24. If you can't do that mentally, do it off to the side. 24 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20. Bring down a 0, carry a 2. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So tank A has a maximum capacity of 120 gallons. Let's find the maximum capacity of tank B. Again, we're going to get rid of this 2/3 in front of B by multiplying both sides of this equation by its reciprocal, notably by 3/2. This crosses out here and here, leaving you with B on this side. And again, we're going to write 96 as a fraction by placing it over 1. And we're going to cross reduce. 2 goes into 2 one time. How many times does 2 go into 96? We'll do 96 divided by 2 very quickly. 2 goes into 9 4 times without going over. 2 times 4 is 8. 9 minus 8 is 1. Drop down this 6. 2 times 8 is 16, so we have no remainder. So this says 2 goes into 96 48 times. So this is 3 over 1, which is just 3, times 48 over 1, which is 48. So B is 3 times 48. Again, if you can't do that mentally, do it off to the side. We have 48 times 3. 3 times 8 is 24, carry a 2. 3 times 4 is 12, 13, 14. So tank B's maximum capacity is 144 gallons. How much water can they both hold together? Well, we have 120 gallons in tank A, 144 gallons in tank B. So we'll do 144 plus 120. That's going to be 462. So they can hold 264 gallons together. Pretty tedious problem, but pretty simple math to do it. This ASVAB PiCAT math knowledge practice test question says the factors of 2x squared plus xy minus 3y squared are. So in order to factor this one, we're going to use a method called the AC method. It says take A and multiply it by C. Well, what is A? It's right here. It's positive 2. What is C? It's right here. It's negative 3. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Identify B. Technically, there's a 1 coefficient in front of xy, so we know our b is going to be 1. Now we're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 6, but add to positive 1. That's going to be negative 2 and positive 3. Negative 2 times positive 3 is negative 6. Negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. Now we're going to take these two numbers and we're going to rewrite this middle term such that it's going to allow us to factor by grouping. So this becomes 2x squared minus 2xy uh, plus 3xy minus 3y squared. All right, now let's go ahead and factor by grouping. From 2x squared minus 2xy, I can factor out a 2x. And in parentheses, that leaves me with x minus y. Now, when I factor something from 3xy minus 3y squared, I want to get x minus y in parentheses. So what can I factor from there? I can factor out a positive 3 y, and that leaves me with x minus y in parentheses. Now, here's our solution. I'm going to combine this to be one term, 2x plus 3y. And then this repeated x minus y is going to be my other term, x minus y. And just like that, we factored this one. It's 2x plus 3y times x minus y, which is answer choice D, of course. This math knowledge practice test question for the math knowledge subtest of the ASVAB and PiCAT says this: using 22 over 7 to approximate pi, find the area of a circle that has a diameter of half an inch. All right, so since we're going to have to calculate the area of a circle, the first thing I'm going to do is write down that formula. That's area equals pi r squared. You do have to know that formula for this test, of course. Now, if we look back at the question, it says our circle has a diameter of half an inch. To use this formula, we need radius. So you also have to know that the diameter of a circle is always equal to twice its radius. In this case, we know our diameter is half an inch, so that's going to be equal to 2r. And we're going to solve this little equation for r to find out how long our radius is. To clear this 2 in front of the r, we're going to multiply both sides by 1/2. This 2 and this 1/2 cross out. Again, 2 times 1/2 is just 1. So that's just r over here. 1/2 times 1/2. When you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across. In other words, we do 1 times 1, which is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. So now we know our radius is 1/4. We can go ahead and plug it in. Likewise, we know that we're going to be using 22 over 7 to approximate pi, so we'll plug that in as well. So this becomes 22 over 7 times 1/4 squared. So we're going to follow the order of operations here. That is, we're going to do this exponent first, and then we'll do the multiplication after that. What is 1/4 squared? And I'm going to do this off to the side so you can see it. When you square a fraction, this square goes both to the 1 as well as the 4. 1 squared is just 1. So this becomes 22 over 7 times 1 over, what is 4 squared? That's 4 times 4, or 16. All right, again, we're multiplying two fractions, so we're going to multiply straight across. Before we multiply straight across, we want to try to reduce this via cross reduction to make this math a lot easier. I know that 2 goes into 16 8 times. Likewise, 2 goes into 22 11 times. So this is going to be 11 times 1, which is 11, over 7 times 8, which is 56. So our area is 1156 square inches, which we can see is answer choice D. This is a pretty hard problem because, again, you had to know that the diameter of a circle is always twice its radius, and you also had to know how to square and multiply fractions. So again, this is kind of a tough problem. ASVAB PiCAT Math Knowledge practice test question says, if the two circles are identical, have a radius of 2 inches, what is the area of the shaded figure below? Use 3.14 for pi. So the area of the shaded figure, or the shaded section, is going to be equal to the area of the rectangle. How do you find the area of a rectangle? That's simply length times width minus 2. Again, we have two identical circles times the area of one of the circles. That's pi r squared. Thankfully enough, we know what our radius is. According to the problem, that's 2. So this is pi times 2 squared. Now we do have to figure out what the length and width of this rectangle is, and how are we going to do that? Well, again, what is the definition of the radius? Radius means you go from the center point of the circle to the edge of the circle. We know that's 2. So these are both radiuses. 2 plus 2 is 4. We can see that this is the same thing as the width of this rectangle. So this is going to be 4. And again, this is a radius of 2. This is a radius of 2. This is a radius of 2. And this is a radius of 2. So our length is going to be 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, or 8. All right, so this is going to be 8 times 4. 32 minus 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8, so this is 8 pi. And we're told to let pi be 3.14, so this is 8 times 3.14. I'm going to work that off to the side very quickly. 3.14 times 8, like so. Move our decimal 2 places to the right to make this 314 times 8, albeit with 2 decimals to move back in. 8 times 4 is 32. Bring down a 2, carry a 3. 8 times 1 is 8, 9, 10, 11, carry a 1. 8 times 3 is 24, 25. Bring in our 2 decimals. So this becomes 32 minus 25, 12. You should be able to do that one mentally. It's going to be C 6.88 inches squared. That said, if you couldn't do it mentally, let's do it off to the side for the practice. This is going to be 32 minus 25, 12. Bring a decimal into there and 2 0 placeholders. We can't do 0 minus 2, so we're going to have to borrow. We're going to have to borrow from this 2. This is going to become a 1. This will become a 10. Borrow one more time. This becomes 9. This becomes 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. 9 minus 1 is 8. Bring our decimal down. We have to borrow. We can't do 1 minus 5, so this is going to become 2. And this is going to become a 11. 11 minus 5 is going to be 6. 2 minus 2 is nothing. So that's how we got our 6.88. And that is that one. Goes twice as fast downstream as it can go upstream, and 2/3 as fast upstream as it can go in calm water. If it goes 40 miles per hour downstream, how long will it take to travel 60 miles in calm water? So at first glance, you're probably saying to yourself, well, I'm probably going to need the distance formula to solve this one, since there are some key words that are prompting me to think about the distance formula. Again, the distance formula is distance equals rate times time. And what elements of the distance formula do we have right here? How long is in reference to time? To travel 60 miles, well, 60 miles is a distance in calm water. Well, we need to know the rate of the boat in calm water. So we do have all the elements of the distance formula, as you can now see. That said, in order to figure out the rate of the boat in calm water, we're going to have to work backwards here. Again, we're given information about the boat as it travels downstream, which I'm going to call DS, upstream, which I'm going to call US, and in calm water, which I'm going to call C. More specifically, right here, we're told that it goes 40 miles per hour downstream. In addition, we're told right here that it goes twice as fast downstream as it can go upstream. In other words, this 40 miles per hour is twice as fast as it goes upstream, while 20 miles per hour times 2 is 40. All right, so now we figured out how fast it goes downstream and upstream. Let's try to figure out its rate in calm water. And in order to figure out its rate in calm water, we're going to use this information right here. It goes 2/3 as fast upstream as it can go in calm water. In other words, this 20 miles per hour is going to be equal to 2/3 of its rate in calm water. So in order to figure out what C is, we're going to just get rid of this 2/3 by multiplying both sides of this small equation by its reciprocal. This crosses out, leaving you with C on this side. Let's do this math right here. We're multiplying two fractions, so we're going to multiply straight across. 3 times 20 is going to be 60. 2 times 1 is 2. 60 divided by 2 is just 30. So the rate of the boat in calm water is 30 miles per hour. So now we have all the information we need to solve this one using the distance formula. All right, so let's start plugging things in. Again, we know the boat traveled a distance of 60 miles, so we'll put 60 in for D. We now know that its rate in calm water is going to be 30 miles per hour, so we'll plug in 30 for R, and this is times T. All we're doing is dividing both sides by 30 to get T by itself. This crosses out, leaving you with T over here. 60 divided by 30 is 2. In other words, it's going to take this boat 2 hours to cover 60 miles. So this one is C.